Welcome to your weekly episode of Reset 42. In each episode, we want to carefully sit with the vulnerability and generosity of a guest who has reset their life. Some have just kicked life into gear again, others are truly survivors. And we'll speak with people who've dug deep to find their passion and reset to a true north. It all begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, how excited am I that we are at the point in the Reset 42 podcast where we're about to start meeting our guests. And this week we're starting off with Gavin James. I caught up with Gavin in Valencia, Spain, as he's sailing around the world with his wife Shona. Now, the audio's a little bit scratchy, and that's because Gavin had to try and find a special place, we call it McDonald's, where they had some Wi-Fi so he could connect to the internet and we could do this recording. So there's a little bit of a story behind everything. From what I hear, Gavin also had to make his way on his scooter back through the rain to his boat, and there's a photo on his Facebook of the drowned rat that resulted because of Gavin's commitment to get this interview done. This is a little bit longer, but this is an incredible life story to talk about. So I hope you're going to enjoy the next 40 minutes as we talk to Gavin James in Spain.
Now, here's your host, Father of the Year in 2009, according to the 4 judges who received an iPod for Christmas, it's Andrew Pitchford.
Well, here on Reset 42, I have been looking forward to this interview for some time. I'm going to be talking with Gavin James. He and Shona are sailing around the world. We're going to find out a little bit about their boat. At the moment, they're docked in Valencia in Spain. We're going to find out exactly what all that noise is going on. Gav, thanks for joining us on Reset 42. Where have we caught you right now?
Well, it's my pleasure, Andrew. Thank you for having me. I am right now sitting in a McDonald's cafe. Because it's one of the best places I can get internet right now. But yes, no, we're in Valencia there. Yeah.
The international currency and the international food menu.
That's right. Well, I reckon they should see how well your country's doing if you buy a Big Mac in their country and see what the price of it is and the quality and that sort of thing. So it's reasonably good here.
Hey, Gav, you tell me that at the moment there's a little bit of a storm brewing, so you're docked in there, you've been having a look around. I saw that you were biking, you've been to Barcelona. What's Spain like on first impressions?
I love Spain, mate. It's absolutely beautiful. It's really, really nice. And the people are really friendly. The language barrier is a bit of an issue at times, but with Google Translate and sign language, you can sort of get away with things pretty well. We've got a SIM card, a local SIM card, which we use, and so we can look things up on the internet and get pictures of different things, whatever we require, and generally that gets us by. But no, the people here are really friendly and really helpful, and I've loved the history of the whole Mediterranean. It's been just amazing. This is kind of the final leg for us in the Mediterranean, and it's a good one to finish on.
So tell us about this journey that you and Shona are on. You're in this boat that to me looks like it should be in a bathtub, but it's obviously doing the job for you. This is the White Arrow. Tell us about the journey in the boat that you've got.
The boat is a Salona 44, which is 44 feet, 13.5 meters. It was built in Croatia. We wanted something strong because our dream was to purchase it and then sail at home. It's a long way, and so we wanted something that was going to last. And a lot of the boats that we were looking at, they call them blue water boats, which are they're made really solid, so they're almost indestructible. Some of these things. We knew that we needed things like water makers and solar panels and all of that sort of stuff if we're going to spend a month at sea with no one around us. We're going to certainly require that sort of thing.
You're sounding like a Kiwi who's been sailing for years and years and years. In fact, I would be convinced that I was interviewing Bruce Farr, the kind of America's Cup designer. But this is something fairly new to you. So kind of how quickly did you embrace the sailing idea and kind of hitting the seas?
Well, you learn pretty quickly, when you're sort of thrown into it. It was probably about 2008. Shona and I got married in 2000. About 2008, up until that time, we had blended 2 families together. And that process, for anyone who has done it, is a bit of a mission. fortunately, our kids all stepped down nicely in age. They were, there was none that were exactly the same age. So it kind of fitted, in a normal type family that, you would sort of see the age gaps and that. Just the stresses of doing all of that was pretty insane. So I think I mentioned to you about how when we blended the families together, we would just head down and bum up, and you just go for it. You've got no time to think, no time to do anything. You just got to do the day-to-day stuff, get the kids to school, get them off to their sports, and and just managing life, which is pretty difficult in itself. And then in 2008, some friends of ours said to us, "Oh, look, do you want to come out with us just for a day?" And they had a yacht. So we said, "Oh, yeah, sure, let's do that." Not really knowing anything about it, but so we went with them, and we sailed from Gulf Harbour, which is just north of Auckland, to Rangitoto Island, and that only took a couple of hours. And we anchored there and stayed there for a few hours, had some lunch and a bit of a swim, and went back again. There was nothing really to it except that, and it was honestly, Andrew, the most relaxing day we had in, for me, probably 10 or 15 years. It was just incredibly relaxing. And on the way home, I said to Shona, I said, why don't we get a boat? We had talked about maybe buying a batch, but, a lot of them are out of our price range. So that getting a yacht would bring the price down dramatically. And obviously we'd have sea views wherever we went. So that was a bit of a plus too.
Now, the White Arrow, you actually went all the way to Croatia. Was there anything particular that attracted you to go all that way to pick up a yacht? There wasn't one just around the corner in Whangaparoa?
Well, we actually... we did look in New Zealand briefly, but kind of like the adventure of coming over here was a bit of an attraction. But also, price-wise, I mean, there are so many yachts over here, gazillions of them for sale, and obviously, economy of scale, the prices are going to be a lot cheaper. So, yeah, we decided to have a look over here and sell everything up, and so we did. We sold our family home. We had rental property, and we sold that, came over, and sort of the rest is kind of history almost. Yeah.
We're here in Brisbane, Australia, talking to Gavin James in the port of Valencia, Spain, who's on a world trip. And if you had a look at his Instagram, you'd see the description: 2 Kiwis with a dream, visit faraway places, experience new cultures, and share a bit of us. Sold the house, got the yacht, now the fun begins. Now, I see you've also included on your website Mark Twain's quote: 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than those you did. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from safe harbour, catch the wind in your sails, and explore, dream, discover. You are truly making this your own. Was that quote in mind when you started off on this journey?
It was, and it kind of fitted after we had been that day out with our friends on their yacht. It just fitted very appropriately. And I guess it's one of those things, you sort of, I like to do things, and the things I say that I do, I'd like to do, then I'd really do my best to do them. If sometimes we can dream about things, and they might come to pass, they may not come to pass. That's okay. But this was sort of something that, we think we could do this, and why not? Now, I guess some of the things in our life that sort of help persuade us that way. For us, my first wife died at the age of 35. So, I certainly know how life can be fragile. And that was a horrible experience to go through. And there was so much more she had to give, to offer. And, I got some serious questions about that. It just it does your head in if you let it get to you too much. But I guess that one of the things that she said to me before she died is that, she said, there was so much time wasted. Now, to anyone else, that seems like, you can imagine what that statement might be. But for me, it held a special significance because her and I had talked about the time that we had been in Auckland, because we moved from Christchurch to Auckland back in 1993. Our kids were little, and we moved up there for work. Now, when Wendy, when she came up, it was a real struggle for her. And one of the things that she meant by that statement was that she had hung on to so many of her friends and family in Christchurch, and she didn't let them go. She didn't want to make new friends in Auckland. She found it really difficult, and she wasn't a difficult person to get to know. And many of her friends would tell you that she's a beautiful woman, but she just hung on, I think, too much to Christchurch and almost refused to make close friends in Auckland. And I think as a result, there was a stress that came in there, which really, look, I'm not saying the stress caused the cancer, Andrew, but I absolutely 100% believe that it exacerbated the whole situation and made everything worse. Just that stress level that she had put on herself. We had talked about it often, and so yeah, the statement for me about so much wasted time was something that it just meant a little bit more to me. And I guess for her it was a regret, and for me, I never really had regrets about my life with her, apart from maybe I didn't recognise that stress level early enough. And look, I can beat myself up about that sort of thing, which I try not to, but it's just there in the back of the mind, It's just one of those things that I have there, and it's something I guess I have to live with, and it's certainly something that I has helped with us making decisions to go forward and do something rather than just talk about it.
Reset 42, a podcast to tell you you're not alone so that we can take just a little learning from someone who's opened the door on a new chapter.
One of the things, Gavin, that we're trying to get people to see through Reset is that nothing is lost. We can learn from what's happened in the past, but we can also take a moment in time to basically wipe the memory, just like we do with a phone, but we've still got all the core there that we can work with. And I guess for yourself, you came out of Wendy passing, you become a single dad, then you meet Shona. Maybe you can just walk us through that in a moment. But you had a long period of time where it was just running 100 miles an hour before you could come up and take a breath to do what you're doing today. Mm-hmm. What else was happening for maybe the next 10 or 15 years?
You mean the next after that?
It was. It came to the point where the single dad goes for a haircut and meets the new bride, which I think is funny because you and I do not have much of a contribution to make to the hairdressing industry.
Yeah, well, back then I did have a little bit of hair, still, Andrew. Yeah, it was a few wisps, coming off the back and sides. So, well, yes, I mean, yeah, Shona was a hairdresser, and in actual fact, she used to cut my son's hair, our eldest son. She used to cut his hair, and my hairdresser had left and gone overseas somewhere, and so I was looking for someone new, and he said, "Oh, why don't you go down and see Shona?" So I did, and yeah, it all happened from there.
So it wasn't an excuse; there was a genuine reason for this, but it did eventuate into your relationship with Shona, and as you say, the challenge of a blended family as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, as a Christian, Andrew, I just step back a little bit because as a Christian, a lot of people, would talk about Wendy and say, well, this must have tested your faith and all this sort of thing. And I looked at them, I just couldn't figure it out. I really did not understand that statement because as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't change who he is. It doesn't mean to say that I'm happy about the situation at all. And I mentioned earlier on that I've got a few questions. And I certainly have some questions, and I do not know the answers to them. But it doesn't change. It never changed who he was for me. And I just do I blame him? No, I don't blame him. I mean, crap happens in this life, and it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a righteous person or an unrighteous person. Stuff happens to you, and it's it can be pretty nasty. This life can be tough. So, I mean, and as a result of that, that's why I sort of thought, well, we have to take the good with the bad. And so the good happened, like a couple of years after she had passed, and I walked down the driveway, and this absolutely drop-dead, just gorgeous hairdresser was waiting for me. And I had been fishing, Andrew, and I was in, grubby red shorts, and I stunk. I'd washed my hands, but you know what it's like when you've been fishing. You can't get that smell out. So I stuck my head in the door and said, "Oh, look, I've been fishing and I smell it, but you want me to go home and we can change the appointment?" She said, No, come on in. I love fishing. And I went, "You'll do me. That's a really good plus." Yeah, so it was excellent. It was a good start.
That was a beautiful moment. Gavin, when you met Shona, obviously
Yep.
Shona was bringing her life into your life. Did you have to basically, not as much compromise, but understand each other? Because you were both on obviously quite challenging journeys of each of your own.
Yes, well, she had been through divorce and had a couple of kids, and she was actually really she's a brilliant mum, and she wanted her kids to to be brought up with their father, and I was absolutely cool with that. And I said to the boys' dad that look, I'm not going to say anything negative about you ever in their presence, and I really pushed hard not to do that because I just don't think it's right to have these conflicts and stuff. So we did blend together the families. That was kind of difficult, and even managing the process of letting the kids get to know each other was hard. And we had a lot of different ideas of what we could do and how we could do it, and we talked to the kids about that, and then some of them didn't come off, and then of course they would turn around to you and say, "Oh, you said you would do this," and well, we wanted to do that, but we couldn't, and so you have to go through all that process. And for a good 3 or 4 years it took just to get into some sort of normality, if you like, if you can call it that, in a blended family. But it was pretty tricky. The one thing that we did together, Shona and I were adamant that we would never disagree in front of the kids. Even if we did disagree with each other, we would just stop the conversation. We would, just go and talk in private, a bit later on, and we managed it. Sometimes it was a bit tricky because I'm not very good at keeping my mouth shut, and so I had to bite my tongue a few times, but generally it worked, and so we always tried to present a united front with whatever situation we were faced with the kids, and I think that helped. That helped enormously. I mean, I've still got a few regrets about the way in which I would like to have done more with the kids, and I guess most parents do. You try and do your best, but then hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you can think back of lots of things that situations you could have handled better, and I guess I'm no different to any other parent. You just try and do your best with all of that.
Gavin, you've had a number of times during your life because of these situations where you've had to take stock and I guess look at how do you reset. Now, you've mentioned that you have that ability to really just go hard and get through things. But is there strategies, are there ideas that you use that allow you to kind of reposition yourself, find north again?
Well, I guess my motivation was the kids, really. I wanted them to, to complete their schooling and to do as well as they could. And we basically had 2 holidays a year. We'd have a winter holiday and then we'd have a summer holiday. They weren't very long, but that's about all we could afford at the time. So we just tried to do the best we could. And that, in the back of my mind, that's really what I wanted, was to provide, something for the kids and keep them going and keep them as normal as possible. Because I think one of the better decisions I made was I wouldn't make any major decisions, for at least a year after Wendy passed, because I didn't think that I was emotionally capable of making the right decision. So I really pushed through and did that. And so the kids were at the back of my mind, and mostly with, really at the forefront of my mind. And then pushing on after that in the things that we did and just getting on with life and that, just doing things day after day. I don't think there was no great secret to it or any anything like that. I don't think that I had really too much of a strategy. I just wanted them to keep going. So it was literally head down and bum up, like I mentioned, and just keep going it day after day. And sometimes it's a slog. You're just doing the same thing time after time. And look, in that time, I had a couple of changes of jobs. The last one was actually one which gave me less income, but it was a job that I really enjoyed more. So I helped. That was a big help for me, rather than just the kids on their own.
You've just celebrated your 60th birthday while you've been sailing, and I guess it's an interesting time when we hit these milestones in life where we actually ask ourselves, what have we learned and what have we yet to learn? As you're looking at this moment in time, are you looking forward and backwards and thinking, I've done this, but I've still got this to do?
No, because we haven't quite done the sailing yet. We've still got as I say, we're in Spain, so we've still got a few more nautical miles to travel yet to get home. So this part of the journey hasn't finished. I guess when we get back, when we arrive back, which is approximately going to be around October next year, at 60, I don't think we were kind of too busy at the time, I must admit, to sort of sit and reflect. Yeah. But interestingly, like last night we met some other Kiwis in the marina that we're staying at, and they're in their 70s and they're sailing around the Med. Although that kind of when we had a chat with them, Shona actually said to me when we got back to the boat, this has encouraged me to go on and we can do it right through into our 70s, which was kind of nice too.
There's an aspect of your journey that I really admire, and I don't know whether it's just that you've got a doggedness to go for it or whether you've been able to embrace it, but I look at the idea of ocean sailing and it would scare the living daylights out of me, the idea of being that far away from any form of safety. So how do you deal with that? Is it a case of feel the fear and do it anyway, or is it cautious planning? What would you say are the recipe for success?
Oh, look, it's a bit of both of those. Look, right now, because of our lack of experience, we can't sort of, the fear and do it anyway is sort of coming into play. Once you've done it a few times, like this guy that I was chatting to last night, he's done the Atlantic crossing, he's sailed all the South Pacific and stuff, and for him it's a breeze. He just goes, look, you'll do it, no sweat. It's, that's his attitude. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, right, it's easy for you to say. But I hadn't done it before. So for us, it certainly is right now. We know the fear. We're just going to do it anyway. But there's a lot of careful planning that we're going to do too. And we're getting a lot of advice from different people. Like I picked his brains last night about, in particular, weather routing and reading the signs and that type of thing. And so it was actually really good. I learned a huge amount just chatting with him. And you can find out so much online too these days about what to do and how to do it and that. So careful planning is certainly essential. And we've now set our boat up with a lot of those things I mentioned earlier, so that it will be able to cross the ocean and not run out of water. We hope, as long as the water maker keeps going. And even if it did, we've got a little backup in that we will take a bunch of 1.5 litre bottles of water as well. We'll probably take a few dozen of those, and they'll just sit in the bilge and just do nothing the whole trip, hopefully. But if we need them, then they're going to be there, and we could certainly last a long time on that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a number of careful planning is certainly something that you've got to do. It'd be foolish not to. But the good thing about sailing that I like is that most of it's common sense. So you have to be, quite frankly, you'd have to do some really silly things to get yourself into serious trouble.
We're talking with Gavin James, who is sailing around the world with his wife Shona. It's been an incredible story, and we're just kind of getting a sense of it's all about the journey, not the destination. Gavin, people can find you at sailabout.kiwi on your website. There's an Instagram account which they can follow. Let's come back to that age-old saying, life is about the journey, not the destination. Mm-hmm. Can you give us some pearls of wisdom that you've been picking up along the way? I mean, what do you feel that you're really learning through this experience? you're not doing this for entertainment. I'm sure that there is some life journey that you're trying to get out of this. You're squeezing it for everything you can do.
Well, one of the things, when I was working for my previous company, I remember going to Thailand. In fact, I think you were there too, Andrew, on that trip. And on that trip, I remember walking through some of the poorer areas in Thailand, in northern Thailand, and I just remember looking at the people and talking with the people, and then we would go into the markets and that, and it just fascinated me the fact that these people of their lives, they had grown up in a completely different environment to what I was used to, and they had made the best of it, or what they could with what they had. Some people were very, very poor, and other people were pushing hard to try and make a living, and it was just, I found it fascinating looking at that. So for us, the journey is about experiencing these new cultures, and we haven't just flitted around. We could have seen a lot more. What we like to do is to go to a place and spend a bit of time there and get to know some of the people and talk with them, and visit the local areas, and that there's always things to see, but just to experience a little bit more. So, and even that is quite short, but I think it gives me a better idea of what these people, how they live on a daily basis. Seeing the sights and so forth, and it's just amazing. You go everywhere we go, even like we've been to Tunisia in northern Africa, and they've got Roman amphitheatres and things because the Romans just seem to go everywhere around Europe, and their ruins are just all over the place, and so it's fascinating for me just looking at all that, but certainly the people and trying to experience a little bit about what they do, and it's interestingly, it has changed my perspective a little bit, Andrew, on my views of life, because I think I took things perhaps a little bit too seriously, and my working hard that we talked about before and just getting on and doing things. There is a time for that, but sometimes I think we allow that attitude to just carry on beyond the point in time when it was for, and then we keep going and we push harder for, I don't know, it could be thicker carpet or a nicer car or whatever it might be. And I'm changing my views a lot on that, and I'm sort of thinking to myself, there's more to life, and it's been because of this experience that I'm sort of, changing my views.
Better than popcorn, this is real, it's life, and it's possibly just what you needed. Make sure you click subscribe wherever you're listening to get our next episode of Reset 42. Now back to the Reset with our guest.
Can you remember a time, Gav, where everything went off the rails and came to a grinding halt? And how did you get the wheel started again?
Well, I mean, obviously it was when Wendy died. It was a short process that she had from when she had a diagnosis until she died. It was only a few months. And during that time, there was just so much soul searching in that. And then all of a sudden she died, and bang, that was it. It was like, what do I do now? I mean, I was just numb. And look, for me, I really think that the thing that helped me get through it was the people around me. The people in the church, it was a small church, there might have been 20 or 30 in the congregation on a Sunday, so they organised the local community, not just the Christians, everybody, and there was Muslims and other people involved, non-Christians, and they had this roster going where they bought us a meal every night, and I mean a 3-course meal. That went on for nearly a year after she died, and I just had to say no in the end because it was becoming too much. That sort of support was just amazing for me. It so helped me. Just talking with people, I think talking was the big thing that helped me get over and get me through the trauma of losing her. I had some good mates that I would just talk with, and sometimes we would just do nothing. I remember walking with my mate along the beach one day, and he was sort of concerned that I'd rejected God and all that. No, I said, look, I haven't rejected God, but I'm not happy with him. it's really, this whole thing's brassed me off. And then we looked and somebody had written GOD in the sand, and I went up to it and I kicked it. And I just said, I don't want things written in the sand. I want her alive. I was an emotional wreck, But just having him to talk with and be able to express myself. And look, I would say that to anybody who's going through any sort of trauma, the number one thing you must do is to talk to somebody. And even quite frankly, if you're on a bus and you're feeling like absolute garbage, the person next to you, just start blabbing to them, because they'll be in a better space than what you will be. They might think you're a Fruit Loop or something, but that's okay. So what? I was at the point where I could have done that, but I was very thankful for the good friends that I had around me. So yeah, that was how I got over my trauma in my life. Yeah.
Gav, for you and Shona, there are going to be times when one partner's up, one partner's down, and you cover for each other. Have you and Shona found ways in which you call each other to account? Shona gives you the wake-up call, or you give her a wake-up call that helps you go on to the next thing together?
Well, interestingly, it's often, those situations often occur too, Andrew, that, like I'll be down and she'll be up. And somehow she just seems to know when I'm down, and I seem to know when she is. And we just, I just go out of my way to try and do something nice or, help her in some way. So we don't really have anything, that we do or anything like that. We just I just try and, as far as I'm concerned, I really try hard not to take it personally when she's down, because sometimes when I'm in that situation, I'm a bit of a mess. So I know what I can be like and how, what the stupid things that come out of my mouth, none of which I mean. And she kind of recognises that too. So I want to work at my marriage. And so that's one of the things that we have done in our lives, that we said that, once a year, at least once a year, we want to go away and just have time for the two of us. And so we would go away for a weekend or just one night maybe, and just spend some time together, just go out for a meal and just enjoy the two of us. And I think that to me is an investment in our marriage. And I see just, whenever I see her down, if I can do something nice for her, that's an investment in our marriage that I look at. So, yeah, there's nothing, I don't think it's anything special. It's just something I guess we do, Andrew.
It's the beauty of acknowledging when you know when the partner needs your help, and being able to do that something special. Gavin, you were telling me earlier that that Mark Twain quote, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do and everything that it says. You were saying a lot of people have said that you're living the dream, you're actually doing it. Can we finish off with you giving some advice to people about how do you follow your dream?
Well, you've got to be sensible about it too. Like all of our kids had left home. They were all had grown to that point, and our daughter had got married, and then so we, because they had, our responsibilities in that area had reduced dramatically. So we didn't just, as soon as we got married, go and do this or anything. It was just the right time, and so we recognised that, and this was something that as a result of the things that had happened in our life. We haven't actually discussed some of the other things that have happened, and like Shona, a month after we got married, she got breast cancer, and so we had to deal with that as well, which was a bizarre thing. So for us, life, we've seen how short and how fragile this life can be. So it was just a matter about doing it, as I say, doing it sensibly at the right time. This is the time for us. Some people, will swap countries and, go overseas, and, and it's the right time for them to do it. And so for us, it was the right time. But we both enjoy sailing. We love getting out on the water, and so it was kind of one of those things that, yeah, let's do it. We could afford to do it because we had sold the family home and the rental, and so we decided, yeah, it's time to do it. So let's go for it. And a lot of people do say that they use the quote "explore, dream, discover," but the first part of that, about being disappointed in that, I don't want to get to that point. And for us, this life is about living life now. It's not about, sitting at home and going through the motions. And like I said, there is a time for that type of thing, and getting your head down, bum up, and working hard. And there is a time for that. And sometimes we just need to, knuckle down and get it done. But there's also a time to enjoy life, and for us, for the few years that we're going to be doing this, we want to enjoy it, and that's what we're doing.
Well, I've enjoyed catching up with Gavin James and hoping to find out what happens on next part of his adventure. Happy sailings. We hope you have good weather, wind in your sails. I don't know what all the fancy stuff is to say, but thank you for joining us on Reset 42.
It's my pleasure, Andrew.
None of us know when life may need a reset, but I hope this episode is one you can keep where you need it or share with someone who does. Join us for our next Reset 42 episode by subscribing wherever your podcast love lives. Visit us online to share the episode. Show notes can be found under the rock where we hide our house key at www.andrewpitchford.com/Reset42.